So I don't know if I was supposed to notice. But From season 4 dropped on MGM Plus at like 12 a.m. I took a nap at some point last night. Woke up this morning. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna watch the season 3 finale. I'm gonna get y'all episodes 9 and 10 since it's a part 1, part 2 type of thing. Tonight the episode go drop and take notes while I'm watching it. Get y'all to review, then get y'all to live. What time the episode is already on the platform. I'm not complaining. From is back, and this episode gives us a lot to talk about, so let's get right into it. And don't trip, y'all should still be getting them season 3, episode 9 and 10 takeaways in some time. First and foremost, I'm not missing this imagery y'all provided in this season 4 post. I got Boyd standing in front of the man in yellow a little too convenient. We find out this season that Boyd is actually a reincarnation of a version of the man in yellow from back in the day. We gotta see. Into the actual episode, season 4, episode 1, entitled The Arrival, should actually be entitled The Infiltration, because we find out in this episode that this character is actually the man in yellow. That shocked probably like 75% of y'all. The other 25% probably had a suspicion that Sophia was not who she came off to be. There's many reasons for thinking this. For starters, the man who drove into town from the trailer looked like he was by himself. There was nobody in his passenger seat. There's another point in this episode that we get an overhead shot of the car driving into town. We get no information on what's going on in the car, which is something that we typically get with newcomers to FromVille. This arrival, no pun intended, felt a little bit too suspicious. We got dude getting out the car, observing the tree, and then just getting back in the car with no reaction to the tree whatsoever. We get an overhead shot of him driving towards the town. Then the next time we see the car, it's in the town and crashes into the sheriff's station. Versus every other arrival in FromVille. We got the Matthew. We saw what was going on with them before they got to the town. Jade and his man he was driving with, we didn't get to see the activity going on in their car. That's an outlier. But then even the bus that came into town in season 2, before they stopped in the town, we got to see Elgin having a nightmare of something that he was supposed to remember that happened in town beforehand. You know, getting his shirt thrown up on, all that. Even if you want to consider last season when Tabitha, Henry, and Acosta come to town. See their interactions up until they get to the tree in a row, their reaction to the tree, what happens when they get to town, all that. Typically, all these things are usually followed by some disaster, but in this situation, Boyd, Kenny, and the other townsfolk are able to successfully get Sophia and her father out of this car. Enough daytime left to hit the bar and celebrate. Something else about the Sophia character that had me very suspicious ahead of the reveal that she's actually the man in yellow. How she was trying to take down that talisman that Kenny showed her. I know y'all peep. That man was moving extra devious, trying to take down that talisman, try to slime out Kenny as if he hasn't been through enough. Speaking of trying to slime out Kenny though, y'all peep how close they got in this episode? That man in yellow really be playing with the townsfolk emotion. You have Kenny thinking that he got another girl in Sophia that he can move on to. For her to actually be the town's biggest op this whole time. Speaking of the town's biggest op, I'm kind of falling into the belief that the man in yellow is actually the big bad of From. We got some words from Fatima, who is saved in this episode after what happened by the end of season 3. If you know, you know. If you remember, you remember. She just gave birth to the smiling demon. She gives us extra context on the situation that the kimono lady showed her. What the From creatures did back in the day to gain their immortality. It says to Kenny and Ellis, those things in the woods, they were people ones. They made a bargain with something horrible. A bargain that she describes it on the episode as a promise to live forever. For the small price of a few kids. Nothing crazy. We see what happened to the From creatures obviously after this bargain was made. They are living forever. So much so they're able to even come back from the dead with this birth that Fatima gave in the last season. Bringing the smiling demon back, which by the way, bro had time to put clothes on. Looking at Boyd and Kenny and them tunnels talking about some, hey Kenny, welcome back. Brother, we was not trying to see you ever again. Even going back to the last conversation Sophia, aka the man in yellow, has with the pastor. He tells dude, I could not come to them as I was, now with everything they'd learned. And think about everything they'd learned, the only thing that I could point to is the fact that now Jade and Tabitha know that they are reincarnations of Miranda and Christopher, who probably saw the man in yellow back in the day at some point. Because the only person who learned anything in this episode about the man in yellow, as far as we know, is storyteller Julie. We saw towards the end of season 3 that Tabitha would touch things and she would get these moments of clarity from things that Miranda saw back in the day. We saw Jade seeing things that Christopher had seen, experiences he had, all that. Now with the understanding of who they are in FromVille, this could spell trouble for the man in yellow, leading him to disguise himself as Sophia. The only question now is, why was the man in yellow hidden for this long? Did it take Jake playing that little song under the bottle for him to now be free? Also, we've definitely seen a suitcase similar to this in season 2's opening. Victor and Tabitha were exploring the caves under Tabitha's house. It had white clothes in there if I wasn't mistaken. But does this suitcase have anything to do with the suitcase that the man in yellow has here? The man in yellow shapeshifted back in the day, maybe? Or the Sumi take on this appearance where he made everybody in the town sacrifice their kids. Allegedly, until further notice. And finally, the reason why I think he's the final villain is because we don't really have a lot of time to flesh out another final villain. With the man in yellow being disguised as Sophia, literally being amongst the townsfolk, he is going to be a big focus in this season already. He may not be acting alone, but I definitely do think that he is the final villain that we can expect to see in FromVille. For the townsfolk escape by the end of the series. This is what I like to believe, because I don't think Boyd is leaving, y'all. But I have hope and faith that he is. From the trailers, we know Boyd is changing. We know that his Parkinson's disease is getting worse. Boyd is dealing with enough as is going into this season. Gonna have to address what happened to Tilly and what Sarah did to Eldridge probably by the next episode. Somebody done drove into the sheriff's station this episode who's actually an op, and he still has to be the person that everybody's depending on to go home. This is not the same man from season 1 who was as hopeful about getting out of here. In fact, he is a lot more hopeless now than he was then. That's completely understandable. You think that you caught a dub taking out the smile demon in season 2. For him to come back by the end of season 3, and in this episode, he's out here putting his clothes back on like he never left. I'll be tight too, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, Boyd is out here counting the bullets left in the town, talking about, Kenny, I need a head count. I need to know we have enough bullets for in case we need to take ourselves out instead of let the From Demons do it for us. The way this season is going, we could be seeing a whole different Boyd by the end of this season. Tabitha and Jade are still trying to figure out their situation this episode after finding out that they are reincarnations of Christopher Moran that have been to FromVille many times in the past already. And also that they had a child in one of these times that they came to FromVille. I'm sure they'll get expanded on later on in the season. Right now, they're still in the denial phase. At least Tabitha is. Obviously, splitting into Jim is going to be so complicated, but I mean, somebody ought to tell her that her husband is likely not coming back home. One thing that confuses me is why didn't the men in yellow just turn into Jim? It feels like a perfect opportunity to do that, be close to Tabitha and the story walker in Julie. Like, you could take out 2 birds with 1 stone. And Ethan, who's probably telling the story, he asked the question in this episode, is Jim dead already? Well, before anybody even had that in their mind. Why the men in yellow chose to shapeshift into Sophia as opposed to Jim? I mean, there are a lot of reasons for this potentially. Maybe bro didn't have the most optimal way of getting rid of Jim's body. Figured at some point the townsfolk would find it anyway and would give him away. And still with the powers we see the men in yellow coming off with this episode, waking people up out of their sleep instantly, causing people to have seizures just as fast. I think even if they did see that Jim was dead out there, would it really matter? But then again, these From Demons be playing all day, so I can't say that this is out of character for them. Plus, it is better to come in somebody who's unsuspected, just got to FromVille, you're not really suspicious of them doing any nefarious activity. Before wrapping this video up, I want to talk about the man in yellow's interaction with Julie in this episode. Obviously, Storywalker Julie is trying to save her father from his unfortunate demise in this episode, once again according to the man in yellow. Julie asking her the question of when did you come from this time? He tells her we have to stop meeting like this, and goes on to say, didn't anyone tell you? There's no way to change a story once it's been told. I find it hard to believe that Julie's been story walking presumably for all this time. We don't really know at this point in Julie's life how long she's been story walking, but it seems like she's seen the men in yellow a couple of times through these story walks. And nobody would have told her that you cannot change a story once it's in a story, including Ethan, her younger annoying ass brother. After this, Julie disappears. She's probably gonna try to hit a lick yet again. And after this interaction, the men in yellow tells a dying Jim, I hate that you're gonna miss this next part, because what comes next is my favorite. He tells it to Jim and the dying man at the bed by the end of the episode, so that the next part he wishes could last forever is the part where they are tearing themselves apart. I'm sure he doesn't mean the From Demons themselves when he says this, but with the town being likely in the most disarray that it's been in since the very beginning of the series, you could very well see the townsfolk who are irritable, ready to go home, going at it against each other. With Sophia being the men in yellow, who knows, push a propaganda in these people's heads, make them want to do just that even more than they already did. Yeah, really great opening episode. I'm so glad that From is back. We made it to this part of the video. Tap into my live later tonight where I talk more about the episode and more things that should come later on this season. Best believe more From content is on the way from me. Y'all stay tuned. This episode, a 9 out of 10, thought it was a very valid start to the season. See what other mysteries and hopefully answers we get as we proceed.